This is El Goblino, and this is El Goblino's wife. And this is a random third green goblin that kinda looks like El Goblino. Longtime viewers may have recognized the latter two characters as being custom-made concepts that I've showcased in previous videos. Nothing really in the game yet, but that may change in the Floor 3 update. Yeah, you heard that right. El Goblino's wife, who just kinda looks like a girl version of El Goblino, as well as other members of El Goblino's species may make an appearance in the castle. Not exactly like what I just showed, but they could be there. Now this claim does raise a few eyebrows at first, but fear not, as I aim to address this entire situation today. In this update news video, which is more on the speculative side, I'll be proving to all of you viewers that it just may be a possibility to see a lot more goblins indoors with the release of Floor 3, and what exactly their functionality could be, or at least what it may be related to. We have got a lot to discuss today, so with all of that being said, let's begin. Alright, so I'm sure you are all aware who El Goblino is by this point, but who is his wife, and what's with the third weird green goblin I showed earlier? Well, I think to begin we should go over what all of these guys are. Essentially, sometimes El Goblino has a chance of mentioning his love interest, or wife, in his dialogue. A rather mysterious individual who, apart from giving El Goblino his gold earring, has very little information available about her. All we really know is that she's very far away, and that she and El Goblino haven't seen each other in quite some time. The model on the screen is a very bare-bones concept I've created of El Goblino's wife, not really based on too much fact in the game because, well, there are none to base it on. I will be using this model as a representation of El Goblino's wife throughout this video, but just know that she actually isn't in the game as of yet, so we don't really know what she looks like for certain. Now, given how nearly every entity is out to kill other beings, including El Goblino, and how I don't really see how an interspecies relationship would work here, I think it's safe to say that El Goblino's wife is of the same species as her husband, meaning that whatever El Goblino is, there are more of him out there. This leads us to the green goblin model I created, which functions as a distinct representation of what I think a normal, unidentified member of the El Goblino species looks like. Obviously, an accurate in-game version doesn't exist, so a bunch of creative liberties were taken when designing this, but I will be using this model to represent a typical individual of El Goblino species throughout this video. As I had stated earlier, given the presence of both El Goblino and his wife in the Doors world, as well as how they are both likely goblins, it means other goblins could exist in the world as well. And given the intelligence of El Goblino, it's possible all the other members of the species possess a similar intelligence, and therefore have the ability to create a society. Just based on pure logic alone, we know a group of goblins of the same species as El Goblino exists somewhere in the Doors world. Now, it's just up to the developers if they wish to expand upon it. Fortunately though, I think getting a deeper look into El Goblino's fellow goblins could be just around the corner, more specifically in Floor 3. However, why is this the case? For one, as you probably know, Floor 3 is going to take place in a medieval-styled castle, evident by how that's the structure we enter at the end of Floor 2. Out of all the possible settings, this one would naturally be the most fitting to include goblins inside of, as they are typically considered a medieval creature, which fits the medieval castle aesthetic of the entire floor. Additionally, El Goblino's wife has already been an established character through El Goblino's dialogue, and given the intentional mystery placed around her whereabouts, I think it is a possibility we could meet her officially in the game at some point, which may even be in the castle due to the medieval theming I mentioned previously. Why would the developers include dialogue about this very mysterious character if it wouldn't be followed up on in the future? This isn't something like the groundskeeper's wife, aka Sally's mother, who has never been mentioned once in the game so will likely never be seen. No, this character has already been established, so that automatically boosts the chance they could be expanded upon. Furthermore, another point I'd like to address, which may also tie into the functionality of these hypothetical goblins, is the purpose of gold. Gold always struck me as a very odd currency indoors, as the only two people who seemingly care about it are Jeff and El Goblino, hardly enough people to make a currency actually worth obtaining from an economic standpoint. Given El Goblino's tendency to be attracted to gold though, this might be a trait integrated into his entire species. A claim also backed up by how El Goblino's wife is specifically said to have given her husband a gold earring. This means this whole El Goblino society could use gold as a currency, which stabilizes it and adds a sense of purpose as to why Jeff wants it, as it allows him to trade with other goblins. Now, I know these points I've made aren't really the strongest foundation to definitively prove that El Goblino species could be expanded upon into a group of actual characters that could appear in Floor 3, but hopefully you can see now that it definitely would help explain an other phenomenon in the game, and it is already completely backed up by the canon already established. So, let's say that hypothetically, this goblin civilization were to be added to Floor 3. How would these goblins function? Well, I do have a couple theories for that. For one, given how El Goblino's wife is specifically designed to be a prominent character rather than a no-named indistinguishable member of the species, it's likely she will serve some sort of story-related purpose rather than a gameplay one if implemented. She could always function like the groundskeeper, where they are heavily intertwined with the story and the gameplay, but I don't really know how she alone would function, so if I had to guess, she will likely play a similar role as her husband, only existing to advance the lore of the game. As for the other indistinguishable members of the species, if they were added alongside El Goblino's wife, I believe that their functionality would somehow tie into gold. After all, given the attraction towards gold seems to be shared by both El Goblino and his wife, it could be a trait among the entire species, and this desire for gold could be helpful or harmful towards the player. For one option, it's possible the goblins could steal gold from you, and you would have to get it back from them. On the other hand, they could trade gold with you, acting similar to how Louis does, but instead of trading items for other items, you trade gold for random items. As for when they'd spawn in the round, I assume the goblins could appear in Jeff's shop, as El Goblino would already be present there and interact with those of his species. Really, it's kind of too early to tell how these other goblins would definitively function if they were even to appear in the game. But given evidence, I feel what I just said is probably the most likely option as to how these entities would work. So, to summarize, there is evidence in-game not only suggesting that El Goblino does belong to a species, which is evident by how he has a wife who was likely also a goblin, but also how El Goblino's wife as well as the rest of his species could make an appearance in Floor 3. This is not only possible given thematic similarities, as Floor 3 takes place in a medieval castle, and goblins are typically portrayed as medieval fantasy creatures, but also because the existence of goblins could provide an explanation to gold. Now, I just want to reiterate that it has never been confirmed or even teased that more goblins are coming to Doors at all. I just thought these observations were intriguing, and given how there are so many, as well as how interconnected they are, I think there is a decently solid chance we may see more goblins in the future update. Maybe not Floor 3, but it would definitely be the most fitting if they were present in the castle. So, with all of that being said, let me know in the comments what you think of all of this, as well as what your own theories are about the goblins. And thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.